I'm going to admit something I have never admitted publicly before. I am a superhero with superpowers. It's true. I can't do things like fly or shoot lightning out of my hands, but I can do some other things, like I can create things that have never existed before and travel through time, and I can change reality. I learned how to do this with a real wizard who raised me in the land of dreams. Now, another way of saying this, is that I was raised by a science fiction writer by the name of Theodore Sturgeon. And he was famous for a lot of things. What he was most famous for was this: live long and prosper. He got a gig writing for this show called Star Trek in the 60s. And he wrote the script where this was said for the first time. And Kirk and Spock fought to the death during the Vulcan mating ritual of Pon Farr. Dun 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 boo whip boo whip. Yeah. Needless to say, I had a colorful childhood. And my parents were friends with really interesting people like the cast from Star Trek, Carl Sagan, Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, Harlan Ellison, and other well-known musicians and artists and writers. I grew up in an altered reality where imagination was more important than physical matter. And they would have parties at our house, and as a little boy, I would fall asleep listening to their conversations. Now, I'm going to be transparent with you about something, which is I just used my superpower on you, just a little bit. Because if I had come up here and I had said, I'm going to tell you about the mating habits of slime mold, the way you react to me would be completely different. But because I told you this interesting detail about my life, moving forward, everything that comes out of my mouth, any way that you relate to me, will be altered, right? And I did that by sharing with you my personal mythos. It is the biggest version of my origin story. And by that, I change reality. Now, the poet, Muriel Rukeyser, said the universe is made up of stories and not atoms. And we all have stories. Personal stories are those things that we tell ourselves to kind of act as a barometer to tell where we are at a particular time and place in this now. And a lot of times they're kind of handed to us when we're born. Our religion, the place we grew up, our lineage, it all folds into that. And we kind of buy into that, right? But sometimes it's better if we don't. Because a lot of times things make more sense if you don't. It all depends on your framing. See, your story colors everything around you, everything that happens to you. If you're a generally positive person and you think positive thoughts, the world looks like a pretty groovy place. If you're a negative person and you think negative thoughts, the world can be terrifying. What if there was a third option besides half empty and half full? What if you were able to think of your life as epic, as mythic? Then what? Well, you're on your way to becoming a superhero. So, what we're going to do is we're going to travel back in time. We're going to get into time machines and travel back to something called the inciting incident. Now, in the movies, the inciting incident is that moment that you're bitten by a radioactive spider, or your aunt and uncle are killed by the Empire. Maybe it's not that dramatic. Maybe it might be as simple as that time that Kenny Stakis threw a rock at you because he said that you talk too much. Kenny. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time, and I want you to think about your inciting incident. We all have one of these. It's the moment that we went right instead of left, took the blue pill when we really wanted to take the red one. It was that moment that we sat in the decision box and everything changed and led you onto a path that you are here now with. Think about that moment. What was that? Because whatever that moment was, it led you to your superpower. Now, you have a superpower, right? And I want you to think about another time. We're going to get in our time machines again. Go back to a time that you remembered doing something that surprised yourself. You stood up for yourself or someone else. You did something unexpected. And the funny thing about superpowers, most of us don't realize we even have them or that's what they are. What I mean by that is when those things happen, we just think of them as our normal everyday existence. But then you have someone come up to you and go, wow, that's really great. And the funny thing about superpowers, not only do we not realize we have them, but we also have trouble accepting them when we're complimented on them. So whatever that thing is for you, that's probably your superpower. And it's been bubbling there all the time underneath the surface. If you can't think about what it is, think about the thing that makes your heart sing. Or maybe the thing that people comment the most on Facebook with. That's probably it. Now, once you connect to your superpower, the next thing is to put into a context that makes it real so you can own it. I'll give you an example. If you have kids, your love is a superpower that allows your children to have an effect that will last for generations. Love is a superpower. Maybe your superpower is writing. Words have big meaning in them. They can change everything. Why do you think they call it spelling? Contextualize it in a way that makes sense to you. And once you do that, your superpowers start to become active. Now, don't get me wrong. You're probably going to run into a supervillain or two. That happens. And when that happens, you simply have to overcome it. And a supervillain doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could just be a situation. It could be a parasite that lives in your brain that changes its state. Because whatever your superpower is, it defines the superhero that you are. Whatever your weakness is also defines the superhero you are. You might have your own version of kryptonite. Me, it's procrastination. You might be sugar. But whatever that thing is, you got to overcome it, and it's there. All right. So next, you've got to figure out what your call to action is. So this is your call to action. Your call to action is that moment that you get your lightsaber. Your call to action is that moment that you get the invitation to Hogwarts, right? So this is it. Because the thing that makes your superpowers activated, the thing that got your superpowers was your inciting incident. But in order to truly become a superhero, you've got to do the one thing that separates mortals from mythic legends. You've got to create something. Now, the one thing about the human race is we have this really unique collective superpower that no other species that we know of has, And that is, we can reach into the void and pull out things that have never existed before. And we do this all the time with artwork, music, events, iPhone apps. An idea made real, magic made manifest into this reality can ricochet around like a ping pong ball and change everything. Now, whatever you do, for gosh sakes, do not wait for it to be perfect, because perfection is the worst kind of supervillain there is. So, let's think about this for a second. You have an inciting incident that led you to your superpower, and you contextualize it in a way that became active. And now you create something, bring something in from the void and make it real. So let's cut to this part in your movie. In this movie, it starts out in a time, in a world, in desperate need of a hero. This is you. And like most movies, you're just kind of going about your life thinking that everything is just the way that it is, until you realize that you have gifts that no one else has. Incredible gifts. In fact, you may be the most powerful person in the universe. And the world needs a hero. And it needs you. And it needs you to create something that hasn't existed before so you can change reality. And you'll probably get beat up doing it, because that's what happens. Superheroes get beat up. And you will. But that gives you an opportunity to come back into the game stronger than ever. And when you do, you will know that you are playing the best Xbox game ever. You are in the best movie ever told, and it stars all of your friends and everyone you know, but you're writing the script. So let's get in our time machines one more time. We're going to stick a stake in this moment, and we're going to move forward in our time machines, writing the moments out 1 second after another. But in this movie, you create something with your superpowers. You reboot the story, you change the script. And you know what? It doesn't matter that you can't see lightning shoot out of your hands. And it doesn't matter that you or no one else can see the spaceship that you crash landed on. And it doesn't matter that you can't talk to your invisible friends anymore. Just own it. Be in it. Because the thing that is true is that we need a new reality. And we need you to create that reality. Because what is true is that the world needs a hero. The world needs you. We need your superpowers, and we need you to create something. So the next time that you're telling your personal story, tell it as an epic myth. Tell it as if it had special effects. Thank you.